And it has been a great opportunity for me to also learn more on what to do before getting into marriage and other things. I'm so happy, I'm so glad to be here with you guys. Well, as I said, kindly send in your comments. Tell us where you are commenting from. We need your comments today. Last week we had a debate and we saw the women winning, which the men don't want to understand, but we still won. Apparently for me, I thought the whole the male or the husband is has a more challenging role than the female. Is a bit I don't know how to put it, but I think both genders have one of the most, or maybe even have something to contribute in the lives
Yvonne,
of each
you see,
other.
you are even struggling. You are even struggling to capture in words whose role is more challenging. And I say for a fact that the men won hands down. We won hands down, but for us to allow peace to prevail, we decided to let our wives take the day as winners. So basically, that's the reason you are struggling to even capture in words whose role is more challenging. That is it.
But yes, so we won because last week our debaters gave us more reasons and more, important words and even things for us to understand why both genders are equally challenging. Though at the long run, we had to bring out a winner for everyone to know. Yes.
No, the men decided to allow the women to win.
But okay, wait. What do you think it is that made you guys think you guys had to win?
We laid the facts bare. It was evident for all to see, all creation on earth, under the earth, and even above.
Okay, we give it to you guys too. We are all winners. Today is going to be great because we have you in mind. Kindly bring in your comment because today's topic is going to be Ask the Counselors. We have experienced, wonderful counselors for you to ask them anything you want them to know. Prior to the fact that we've had this amazing September to remember from week 1 to today being week 5. We started with what I wish I knew before I got married, and following the husband's secret letter to wives, the wife's secret letter to husbands, and last week being the debate, today being Ask the Counselors. We are excited to have you.
Right.
Whatever questions you have for us, kindly bring it in. We want you to be engaged.
Yes, today is totally about you. Our counselors are excited and they can't wait to meet you and also to speak into the issues that you may be having in your marriage. So today is about you. Let us engage. What are the challenges that you are facing? What are the things that is boggling your mind concerning your marital home? Our counselors are ever ready to speak into the issues. So all we are asking for you is to engage with us on the virtual platform. Just type whatever that you have, even if it is something that you've heard from a friend or a family that is struggling or having challenging issues in their marriage. Please, let's connect and let's engage and interact on the platform, and our counselors are ever ready to address that.
Okay, so thank you so much everyone for being with us today. We're excited to do this with you. Kindly share, as I said, we're on live on Facebook. Kindly share it to your friends. We want you to get engaged. Create a watch party. Last week was amazing. We had over 700 comments. We want to still be with you because it was crazy with the debate.
The place was on fire.
Was great. We were so blessed to have you all. God bless you, and we will see you soon. We are going straight to the moderator. No, we have to go straight to the moderator,
first.
So now,
okay.
Over to the moderator. Thank you and see you soon. Enjoy the program.
Hello.
He told me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to our September to Remember session. And it's been 5 weeks of informative and education. It's been insightful, it's been fun, it's been entertaining, and we thank God for how far He's brought us. Our discussion centered on marriage, is centered on relationships, is centered on finance, and the fun part was the debate. It's been the much talked about one, and we thank you for joining us on that session as well. So thank you once again to our virtual members who have joined us, those who are in-house. Thank you for making time to join us this evening. As Salasi rightly said with A.S. Ajar, we started off with what I wish I knew before I got married, husband's secret letter to wives, wife's secret letter to husbands, the debates, and today we crown it all with Ask the Counselor. And Ask the Counselor today is a session where we've dedicated it to you to ask any questions that is bothering you, any concerns you have regarding marriage, any concerns you have regarding relationships. So any issue that you have, just ask, post it on in the comment section, and then we'll gladly read it. When you go to ICGC Zoe Temple on Facebook, just post every question that you have. Don't be shy at all. Just ask any question, and then my able team of counselors will help us to dissect the issues and bring you a good response. In that regard, I would like to introduce our counselors now. Starting from my immediate left is Lady Josephine Amo Asare, who is a vibrant Christian lady and is passionate about relationships. She is a marriage counselor at ICGC Zoe Temple. She's a business office manager at United Bank of Africa, UBA, Tema main branch. And she's been married to Reverend Kojo Amo Asare Jr. for the past 15 years. They've been blessed with 4 adorable children. Thank you very much, Lady Jo, for joining us. Next to Lady Jo is Kofi Kobold, popularly known as Uncle Kofi, and he's the coordinator of the premarital counseling team, head of the Zoe Temple Adult Bible Class Facilitators, and a youth facilitator. He is a member of the ICGC Head Office Properties and Estate Management Committee. Kofi is a partner and director of Valuation and Investment Associates, a property valuation, project management, and real estate consultancy firm, and he serves as the principal valuation consultant. He's been married to Florence Kobold for the past 22 years. Thank you very much, Uncle Kofi. Next to Uncle Kofi is Dr. Amma Edwin, and she is a certified and practicing clinical psychologist. She is a certified Christian and marriage counselor, a minister of the gospel, a gifted presenter and communicator with a rich experience in marriage and family and relationships. She's a crisis intervention and conflict resolution specialist as well. Dr. Edwin is married to Professor Frank Edwin for the past 25 years, and they have 2 wonderful sons. Doc, thank you very much for joining us. And last but not least, everybody's counselor, everybody's elder, Amos Kevin Annan. He has over 2 decades of experience in coaching and counseling for both church and non-church based groups. He is a compassionate and passionate, respected voice on youth and relationship matters. And he's married to Evelyn, and they are blessed with 2 great children. Elder, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Laurie.
So, now that we know our counselors for this evening, we are going to set the ball rolling. Last week, the past weeks, let me say that we tackled some issues where the husbands brought a letter to the wives, and the wives also brought a letter to the husbands. We had some questions in there. We would like to start off with that, and as we go on, the questions that you post on in our comment section, I will read them out for our counselors to help dissect the issues. So we have some questions here, counselors, that I'd like for us to start with, and then as and when people post their questions, we can address them accordingly. So I'm going to start with the wife's bit. A wife sent in a question, and she says, "Dear counselor, what is it with Ghanaian men and no romance? Please, my husband is not romantic, cry." She added, cry. He's too stiff. Help me. So what is it with Ghanaian men and no romance? Please, my husband is not romantic, cry. He's too stiff. Help me. I'd like to start off with Elder. She says the husband is not romantic at all.
Well, I think that the issue of romance is dependent on the person who is expecting and receiving it. For others, it's about touches and hugs and pegs and what have you. For others, maybe flowers, something colorful, a thoughtful gesture. So it's important that the wife explains what she means by being romantic towards her would look like. And that will help the husband also then do it according to her preference. Because he may be doing what he knows best to do,
Right.
and that may not be sufficient. So there will be the need for the two of them to have a conversation around the subject of what romance is and how romance fleshes out with her as a woman.
Bearing in mind that we all have different love languages.
Certainly.
And all.
If you add that, then that's even a more complex one. And then when you add personality differences, would also make it even more difficult. And then upbringing, experience, exposure, all those things, they all add to it.
So just a follow-up question. Is that the case that in general, Ghanaian men are not romantic?
But I think it would be an overgeneralization if you box every Ghanaian man. Because I know some men who are very, very romantic to the extent that their wives think they're doing it too much. So it will be overgeneralization. But it will be possible that you may have a lot of males giving to work, and not being verbal or not being touchy, unless, of course, they want an end, which is not what exactly a woman who is looking for romance will be looking for, which is the end of engaging in sexual activity or having sex, if you like, because romance itself could be sexual activity.
Right.
Well, Doc is here. Let Doc
Doc. Doc would like to hear your
Sure,
views on
I
that.
agree. I mean, I certainly won't box all Ghanaian men as being unromantic or not being romantic. And he said it clearly. What is romance? For some, I read one of the letters, and the wife said, if you even brought me a single rose, whether artificial or natural, I would like it. There's no way I would like artificial flower. But she, for her, is flower, whether artificial or natural it is. So it's really dependent on what the person thinks as romance. Some might think breakfast in bed, or just asking you, would you like a cup of tea or cup of coffee, and offering it. Or someone might think that, oh, you're in the kitchen, he's there all over you, touching you here. I mean, so people have their own definition. And I like what he said. Sometimes there are, in one of the letters, I talked about that it's you touch me when you want something. This person obviously wants touch to be a means in itself. So you are not romancing me in quotes according to the person's definition because you want to end up having sex with me. The romance itself, however the person defines it, should be an end in itself. But we also need to realize that our society is changing, and there are a lot of women and young girls who have been influenced by the books they've read, the movies they've seen, the telenovelas that are all over. So you might see certain things happening in a certain culture and you like it and you want it, but for what you all you know, that hasn't been the case with the person you are married to. So if there's something in particular you would like and your husband is not doing it, it's better to talk to him about it, especially he does it once. Your response should let him know that, wow, this thing, I mean, it was like over the ceiling. He really got you appreciated. Direct him that, you know what, I know you love me, but I think you talked about the languages. We speak the language that is familiar to you. If I say Teshekuride, or if I say obrigada, for instance, and you don't understand, do you understand obrigada? that is thank you in Portuguese.
Yeah.
Do you understand? I've said something nice, but you don't understand it, so it's gibberish. It's like tongues to you. So in the same way, when it comes to romance, it is the receiver who determines what is romantic and not the giver, because you might be doing something that is romantic to you, but to the person at the end, it's not. So what I'll then treat women to do, or especially in response to this question, is what do you want your husband to do that will speak to you as he being romantic? Give him hints, tell him, or let him know. But we make assumptions. We want him to meet our needs. We want him to discern. Your husband is not God. Yes, he has the Holy Spirit. Maybe you can pray that the Spirit of God will direct him. But God has also given us wisdom. So it would be good to let him know that, oh, if you do A, B, and C, it makes me feel special. One letter said, when the little things mean a lot to me, you change the baby's diaper, you help the children with homework, you help me with the dishes. She's been explicit. So those things are things that won't cost a lot, but to her it's like, wow, my husband really cares about me. So women, indicate what you mean. Don't just generalize. You are not romantic, right? What does that mean? Right. Thank you.
Right. So if you're a wife and you are listening, just be specific. Go straight to the point. Communicate. Tell your husband what exactly you want. Be explicit, just as Dr. Edwin has said. So, Uncle Kofi, in this regard, are women communicating enough? Are we telling our husbands what we want enough? You have been a married counselor for quite a while. Are we saying the right things? How we want to be treated?
It's an interesting question, actually. Because it's one thing saying and one thing understanding what is being said. Like Doctor said, you can speak in Portuguese and somebody may get offended. And so I think it also goes down to a communication issue, because probably for lack of words, we use the wrong words to mean what we don't intend to. Because probably, let me prove that when we go to premarital counseling, try to ask, is love the same as infatuation? And people will say no, but yet they can't explain the difference. Is love the same as romance? You say no, but we cannot explain the difference. And so to somebody's man, the love is romance, but yet you say it's not the same. And so, and it's a marriage is not probably the graduation, it's the beginning. And so what we teach at premarital counseling is to learn, because we need knowledge. I mean, you are married, you have a certificate, but that certificate that should have been given at the end of the marriage, you get it from the beginning. And some hold it as PhDs. And therefore, I have a right to do what I want to do. But it's the beginning of the learning process. And so we need to seek for knowledge, because no married counselor can teach what is romance. You need to learn, and it is customized, because what you were doing with probably your ex-girlfriend may not apply to your wife, and what you are doing with your husband will not apply to your ex-boyfriend, will not apply to you. But it is a commitment that we want to let it work, and therefore we humble ourselves to learn. And so when romance means maybe removing your shoes and giving warm water, then let us be plain as it was said, because you may communicate, but communication is also a cycle. I mean, if the fact that you've communicated, it could be coded. The person may decode it wrongly, and so yes, it's a constant engagement, because you may communicate, you might think you've communicated once, and the feedback may not come the way you want, and therefore you give up so easily, and then it leads on to the wrong direction. Yes, so women may be communicating, but in this life journey, single communication will not be enough. We have to constantly engage, communicate. And men, please, learn.
Men, do learn. Thank you very much, Uncle Kofi. So, Lady Jo, how can we help this wife to communicate well to the husband?
All right, thank you very much. I think a lot have been said on this topic, and for what he rightly said, and Kofi rightly said, as in one could be speaking, but the recipient might not be hearing or getting the exact information. What I think we can do to assist such a sister is to be very, very, very explicit. And it's not all the time that what you say gets to the hearer. So in the course of communication, and you realize that what you said is not what is being done, there's nothing wrong with you reiterating. And it depends also on how you say it. Sometimes you might think that you are saying what you need, or you want your husband to do ABC for you. But sometimes the way you put it also puts them off. So they won't even attempt at all. Maybe they've done some of what you've asked before, but because of how you went back on it, asking for it to be done in a certain way for you, it just threw them off. So maybe what would I advise our sister to do is to keep on communicating. Say it in the language of the man, where the man can also understand what you mean. If he does not understand or does differently from what you expect, humbly say it again, and I believe that he would hear. Even if afterwards he's still not hearing, there are several means of communication. You can be winking, you can be maybe get closer. This is not how I said it. I meant this way. Oh, well, thank you for how you did it, but what if you have added this, or you had added A, B, or C? That would have maybe made it better for me. So be explicit, be polite about it. Don't expect him to know everything. He will not know,
Right.
as was said by Doc.
Right.
It's the only God who is able to see in the hearts. Every other person sees through what is, physical. So if it's not being done, politely talk about it and just keep hitting at it. And I believe with time, it will sink.
With time,
sorry,
it was right.
Just before you move away from this,
Sure.
It'll be interesting to know what actually romance looked like before they got married. Because that would also give us an inkling into whether or not that has been sustained or it has died out.
Right. Right.
And as life goes on, probably what you've been doing becomes boring. So you need to
So we need a change.
Innovation becomes part of it.
Exactly.
The way the person said he's not romantic, cry. It's like maybe he was like that. Sometimes too, that's the thing. You meet the person, this is how the person is. You take the person as he is, and you expect him to change. Because you have a way you want. But if someone doesn't change to get you, why should they change to keep you?
Exactly.
That's who they are, and it was okay for you when you wanted to get married.
Maybe the love blinded her. So,
and even in this one, we can't really speak to it so much because we can't tell what a man is doing that she's not seeing as romance.
Exactly.
Maybe for her, what she's been watching on television, what she's been reading, is what feeds her hunger of romance. But to the man, he might be doing certain other things that I'm sure we are to keep the communication. And if he's doing all that he's done and she's still not feeling the romance, talk about it. To me, it means doing A, B, C, and D. I appreciate what you've done so far, but can you add these ones? I'm sure it will jive and they'll be better.
Right. So it all boils down to communication. Thank you very much. So I would like to go online now. We have some few questions that we want to address from Adjoa, and she says, please, I'm single, very independent. Love me, pa. Hey, today, very outspoken, hardworking, and a very confident woman. But men seem to have problems with that. Please, what should I do? Let me read the question again. Please, I am single, very independent. Love me, pa. I don't know whether it's self-love or something else, but she says, love me, pa. Very outspoken, hardworking, and a very confident woman. But men seem to have problems with that. What should she do?
Is it Ghanaian men here too?
Let's say just men, the male species. So what should she do? Doc, can you help our sister?
So, growing up, especially in our generation, there were certain expectations of women. It was almost, you hear women, children, and sometimes the expectation was that women would be seen and not heard. If you are too loud, it means you were not. In fact, one of the scriptures that someone misinterpreted years ago was when Peter said, you have a gentle and quiet spirit, and the person literally said it means we are by it's a gentle and quiet spirit. It didn't say, the scripture didn't say gentle and quiet. It says have a gentle and quiet spirit. So all these things are there. It could be that yes, the type of men you are meeting do not want a woman like you, because I also know men who are looking for a woman who is assertive, a woman who is independent, a woman who wouldn't have to depend on them for everything. So it really boils down to what are her non-negotiables. Because sometimes when you are looking for a relationship, there are certain things that you think might not matter, but then ultimately they become things that matter. So first, it's important for her to know who she is, and she seems to have that down. She's described it. What is it that she wants out of this life? What is she about? And what kind of relationship, what kind of man is she expecting? It can be challenging, especially as you age, and you might want to change who you are just to grab a man. But then if you change who you are to get a man, then you have to stay that way, because the man found you in a certain state. He can't marry you and expect that. So yes, it's great to be married, but she should go on enjoying her life, and the right man will discover her and want her for who she is. Maybe she should widen her circle, or her, because your social circle, your interaction determines the people you meet. And in this day and age of COVID, where we are all not socializing that much, that could also matter. But my recommendation, I don't want to use advice, will be maybe I should, this is an opportunity to talk about the 3 M's that I always say guide me. You know who your master is. So if you know who your master is, you definitely will know your mission, because your master will give you your mission. And based on your mission, you get your mate. I always give a simple example. If your master has told you to go to Navrongo, and you meet someone, your place, I like Navrongo, the TZ there is another thing. So if you're going to Navrongo, and you meet this incredible person you love, but their master has given them, or even the same master that you share has given them a mission to go to Aflao, you can travel together, no matter how much you love the person. But if you know that your master has given you a mission to go to Navrongo, and you meet someone going to Paga, you know you can travel together, because it is in the same direction. And that, for me, is the key to being fulfilled, especially as a Christian, when you know your ultimate as a woman is not to get married. God didn't put you here and say your purpose is to marry. No, He's giving you to the earth to make a difference, and there's something you can do. And in discovering that, you can meet someone who will work with you, so that one put away 1,000, 2 can put away 10,000, because of the synergistic thing. There are men and women who have married, and they literally, their mission has been cut short. So I will entreat people looking for husbands and wives that yes, it's great, but when you are a child of God, you're in searching for a partner, it should be guided by God. And I believe that if you go on that path, it may take a while, but when it's better to spend 10 happy years than 30 miserable, or 40.
And that's very profound. Because of time, I'd like to go to another question that we have from Yvonne Tiana Mate. And she's asking, is it okay for a man not to have a plan before marriage? Most people say there are blessings that comes with marriage. So most men fail to have a plan, especially financial plans, and wait till they get into marriage, which I know isn't right. What is the advice for some of us females who find this unacceptable? Who find this not acceptable? We don't want to be called gold diggers. Please, is the question clear? So I'm thinking she's asking about having a plan, financial plan before marriage, and she wants to know whether or not, she says, what's the advice for some of us females who find this is not acceptable? So I'm thinking that they may have spoken about it, and then the assumption is that they might be gold diggers. Uncle Kofi. This is money.
Interesting, but you know, a few years ago, Ghana was starting a 40-year development plan, and there was a debate between the professor who was a professor and this Imani Kofi Bento. That said that you can do short-term plans in the long, and he won the debate. But and so it depends on where you want to go. But we should also understand that marriage is a long-term project, and therefore you may not have up to the last day of your life. But there should be, because a woman is supposed to be a helpmate. It should come and find you doing something, or potentially, knowing where they are going. And so at least not a very long term, but at least the medium term, because I mean, even for the wedding, if you have no plans, how are you going to organize it? Beyond the weddings, there are children, and so some want to be sure, not probably that you have the money, but at least you have a plan. And so it's very important to at least let the person have confidence that you can lead the family, and it's leadership. And so if you're a leader, then you should know where we're going. It's because there used to be a term that every leader should have a follower, and makes people egoistic, that if you're a leader, then you force people to follow you. But I mean, when we're young, you only climb the tree where there are ripe mango, where there are fruits. So people want to follow those who are bearing fruit, and not just because they are trees. You will not scale somebody's wall just to go and climb a tree that has no fruit. Yes, so yes, you need to have a plan, because it's supposed to come and be a help. But if you come and there's no plan, then you'll be forced to start a home plan, and that is the beginning of chaos and conflicts in the marriage. And I think as much as possible, you need to have a plan, even if it's not a very long-term plan, but there is a similitude of where we want to go. Then it helps in focusing the energy, the resources, and the finances, knowing that this is where we're going. Because if your leader has no plan, where are we going?
So I'm guessing that if you don't have a plan, it takes away the role that you, the man, you are supposed to play in the marriage, as far as leading the wife and the kids.
It may not take
financially,
but whoever is will be confused, because today we are going to Navrongo. The next time on the way we have to go to Aflao, and so everything is confused. And when you have this confused plan, then you might end up wasting resources. Even we resources are scarce, but because there's no plan, we try this, it doesn't, not that it doesn't work, we don't have the tenacity to see it to the end. Yes, so it confuses everything, and and it brings in a procrastination, because you are not sure whether we are starting or we are not starting. But time will not wait for you till you make up your mind.
Right. Thank you very much. Would like to go on to our next question, and it's from Becky. She says, "Hi, counselors. Please, I am in a long-distance relationship due to work. The kids are with me, but my hubby lives closer to the mom. He prefers his mom handling his food more than I should. He has always shut the issue down anytime I raise it. Should I ignore and exist?" Should you ignore and exist?
Is the husband close?
No, she's so the husband lives closer to the mom. She's not close.
So she wants to be cooking and sending
the food over to the man, and the man wants his mother to be cooking for him.
Okay. Some wouldn't have any issue with it at all, but for her to have raised it, it's an issue that must be looked at. So what I'm thinking about is, marriage has its own way of changing people's plans, okay? But of course, if you come together and you want to do certain things, there's the need to, as what was rightly talked about the financial aspect, to put some plans in place. Nobody changes after marriage, really after marriage. What you see before you get into it is what you get, and even sometimes depend. Was this discussed before marriage, as in, I'll live with my mom, you live with your mom, and then when you want to eat, I'll cook from, I don't know where Becky lives, but if it's from Tema to Akosombo, every day I'll bring you food, or mommy should be cooking, and weekends I come over. There should be some kind of discussion about this for them to really appreciate what is going on, so that nobody gets too much, hurtful. In this instance, the guy is closer to mommy. You are far away. Maybe you can still be cooking and sending as you want to do, because I think women sometimes have this kind of fulfillment when we are serving our husbands. But if you cannot do that every time and he prefers mommy's food, or you think that mommy cooking for him is not something you want, maybe you might be thinking about relocation, enjoying hobby, or you ask him to come over. You need to plan along those lines.
But what if it's school? Maybe she's in school or work has taken her somewhere else. So this is the reason why mommy, the mother-in-law, will have to
cook for hubby. Then she might have to understand, unless she wants to be cooking and sending it every day or every weekend. So we need to talk about it and ensure that understanding is working. Because as I said earlier, some won't mind at all. Where you didn't have finish, but she wants to cook for hubby. So he can still be cooking and sending. Maybe let him know that I would like you to eat my food. But for what we're going through in this interim, let me be cooking and bringing it. And please eat for me. How would you even know he's eating? Becky needs to kind of put herself in place and not to get too hurtful. If she wants to be cooking for daddy or her husband, she should either move closer to be cooking or cook and send, or maybe hubby comes over and then they can have the cooking and the serving. Until then, she has to maybe
ignore and exist.
Ignore.
That's her
maybe
words.
Keep talking about it and then trust that maybe he will see reason to allowing her to be bring. I don't know whether he's not allowing her to be bringing the food over, or he thinks it's too stressful, and so she just relax. Mommy will do it. But if she still wants to do it as a wife, discuss it. I want to be bringing it. Take it, and then trust God that he eats. Because how would you know that he's eating anyway? If he says I'm eating, unless maybe you really know what he's going to eat at what time, it's going to be bothering. What did you know? The kind of thing. But let them talk about it.
Right.
I think she's hurting because she thinks somebody is taking her role as a wife. So she can be cooking and selling the food over the weekend. And that kind of it doesn't sit so well with wives. But some don't also mind.
Some
discuss it, send food if you can cook and be sending every weekend. Or let mommy do the cooking. Or hubby comes over, or you move over.
Right. Thank you very much, Becky, for sending in your question. So I have another question here from a husband. He says, "Dear counselors, out of anger, I slapped my wife in an argument. I was ashamed and embarrassed when she packed out of the house. I was ashamed and embarrassed, and she packed out of the house. I got my family to beg on my behalf, and we finally got back together. But dear counselors, my wife has changed. She doesn't talk to me or say much. I mean, she does all that is expected of her as a wife, but I can see the spark is gone. How can I show my wife of 5 years that I'm truly sorry and I won't hit her again?" Oosh.
Can I take it?
Yes.
Elder has
Okay, so you want to take it?
Oh, no, please go ahead.
So we come to you.
But he continues.
Yes,
He's the expert,
yes.
so we are not waiting. All right, so what I would want to tell the husband is that the wife is hurting. And for her to have come to that level in her life, thank God he said there was some sparks. She used to talk, she was bubbly, and it's no more there. There's something eating her up. If he can make the time and sit this woman down and maybe pour out his heart to her as being so remorseful about it, I think it will work. And for her to have left the house and gone to mommy's and then has now come back, it's taking a while. So he needs to take his time. It won't come about just in the twinkle of an eye. But as we were saying in the earlier conversations, everybody has a love language. But you need to repeatedly, consistently tell it to her that I am sorry. Do it in different ways that I am sorry. Do it in different manners that it won't happen again. This will go a long way to soften her hurts or her pained heart, and I'm sure with time she will come about. She should take his time. It won't be put to practice. It will take time. So she should just be consistent and show more love, show more remorsefulness, and be very faithful to that plan. I believe with time she will come about.
Right,
Well,
Elder.
Doc will come in, but let me just say this. It's important for us to appreciate that violence has no room in a loving relationship. If you love somebody, you show respect and you are kind towards them. So if you take to that posture, there's no way you should act violently or even show rage towards them or even make the suggestion that you threaten them. But that has nothing to do with love. It's got everything to do with beastly behavior. Now, having said that, it is like trust. When you violate trust, to regain trust, you've got to do a lot more work. Sadly, the more work you do, the more suspicious the person becomes. So I'm not surprised that the woman is showing the coldness, the withdrawn nature, because she's traumatized. When a person is traumatized, they may be in a state of disbelief. They may be in a state of shock. And she may require somebody beyond the husband to recover. Because clearly, the husband doesn't have the set skills to give her the assurance she needs. So she needs to get over the state of shock and the trauma that she has experienced. Only she can verbalize the trauma. The husband may hazard a guess, but his guess will be insufficient to describe the state in which the wife is. So I would strongly recommend that they get a psychologist, a counselor, or a therapist to come in. Finally, I also want to say that the husband needs help, because this is only the first one that has occurred. You have no clue how this can grow beyond his own control. So he needs to learn how to manage anger, how to manage your own intrapersonal conflict. Because sometimes you're going through something in yourself which you are unable to cope with, and your coping threshold may have fallen so low that everything blows you up. And so that's what I would say. I think Doc is here, she can add more.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. It's a sad case. Domestic violence, unfortunately, is very real, and it happens in the church as well, even among, pastors and leaders in the church. But the good thing is he's bold enough to ask the question. So I doff my hat to him. A lot of people will try and cover it and justify it. But he said that he was angry and he slapped his wife. So it shouldn't surprise him that the wife is quiet. She doesn't know what she will say or do that will trigger another episode. And like he said, hardly does it happen once and it doesn't happen ever again. It starts like that and next time it's escalated. So she's genuinely afraid, and work is involved. Doing trauma work is hard. When it's within marriage, domestic violence, it is doubly bad. And in this case, I don't know whether there were children involved who witnessed that. All of that can. So they do need help. They need professional help, and not just any counselor or therapist, but those who know how to deal with abuse. Because if it is not handled well, it will. But the guy has recognized that. But this is not something that, like Jesus said, this one doesn't go away except by fasting. This one doesn't go away by apologizing. That's serious issues. They need to do the work. They need the professional help. So I'll treat him to. I can recommend some people offline, so maybe he can leave his number, and then there are some psychologists who've done work, and they focus on working with men who have been traumatized, the word we use is perpetrators of violence, who really want to change. And this one is self-initiated. He's not being forced to change. He wants the help so that he can have his wife back. So that's a very good thing.
Right. Thank you very much, our counselors, and thank you to the husband for sending in that question. So this is another one from another husband, and he says, "Dear counselors, I've been unemployed for 6 months since COVID started, and it's my wife who is managing the home, but she's always finding ways and means of telling me I'm worthless. But she knows I'm not. It just happens that COVID has made me jobless. I'm even tired of her nagging. What should I do?" Elder, I may have to come back to you on this.
You know, Doc give you 3 M's.
3 M's.
I want to add a 4th M.
Right.
And that is manners. You see, you know your master, you know your mission, you know your mate. You should have a set of manners relating to the 3. And in this case, being made to feel worthless is not a call of a spouse. Because you're supposed to complement each other. Now, she's supposed to be a helpmate, suitable for you, that is designed for your situation. Now, this is his current situation. It is not the end of his life. It is an unfortunate occurrence of life that has changed his reality and circumstance. So there's a need for him to have a conversation with the wife about how he feels, about the way she's treating him since the incident occurred. Because I'm very certain that prior to this, he was the hero of the home.
He stated.
Okay, now being the hero of the home, then all of a sudden you become a villain. It's disaster. And many men would bottle up, withdraw, they become depressive, and they start taking to unnecessary things because they have to deflect that into certain activities and behavior that will be destructive to themselves and the people around them. So wives who have such situations, and indeed during the COVID, we've had a lot of men losing their jobs. And so it may not be peculiar to him. And then some women too have lost their jobs. So if you have a spouse or a significant person in your life who has lost their job, the last thing you want to do is to make them feel worthless. Because their worth is not defined by their wallet. You know? You have to keep their dignity as people. And through that, you can even give them a reason to live this life. So that they don't do something untoward that will leave you psychologically traumatized for life.
Right, but is that always the case that when women have the power or the wherewithal to manage the affairs of the home, they just rub it in the faces of their partners? Because I'm asking this because there was a gathering where I was in, where someone passed the comments that, hey, so it's like they generalize, overgeneralization of how wives act when their husbands are not in a position to do that which they used to do.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate how we tend to stigmatize people and stereotype them by the same, stereotypical view that we have of them. And that reinforces a behavior that makes it difficult for people to live as unique individuals. So, yes, she's a wife, she's a lady, a woman, but she's not every woman. She's distinct. So every human being who's relating to another, see them, yes, as women or men, but they are also unique. And everybody wants to be treated and related to in their own uniqueness.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get very worried when people start using this broad brush to paint everybody. When you do that, you create a more difficult relational cycle for even the younger ones.
Exactly.
They start fighting your unfinished battles. They start doing things. They live their life in your world when their world is completely different from yours. So there's a need for us as people in relationship to constantly clarify our assumptions. Because if you have an assumption about your woman that if she gets money, she's going to do A, B, and C, it's an assumption. You've got to clarify that. And you should know the person you're dealing with. Because not everybody. I was in a couples retreat where a lady, received a Mercedes tear rubber, fresh, from the husband because the guy lost his job for 10 years and yet his wife never made him feel as useless or, no good. And this guy landed a good job and he's been saving for the period where he got this new job and bought this vehicle and surprised the wife at the event. Wow. We were all tearing because for him to say, my wife never made me feel like I was worthless, was very significant. And so it's important for us, this is an occurrence. It is not the end of life.
Right.
There are so many stories out there. People said they were going to start porridge, their wives didn't follow them. Today, they became huge brands. Now, what are you going to do? So you cannot predict accurately or sufficiently what will be an outcome. And love is actually a journey of risk. If you're not ready to take that risk, please, then you're not ready to love.
You're not ready.
Because love comes with labor.
Love is hard work.
Thank you.
Love is hard work. Marriage is hard work. So you should be ready. You should be ready. So our next question is from Victor Elijah Lanom. He says, Dear counselors, what do you do when you have a wife who loves God and prayer, but can get angry over trivial issues, flare up, nag, and impatient to listen when you are explaining things to her? Uncle Kofi, let's help Victor.
Like in school.
Let's help Victor.
In fact, I was going to even probably the previous question. I think we need a lot of support system around because, there are a lot of conflict that comes as a result of, which as a result of, it's outside the control of the spouse, like this COVID. Nobody plans that they will ever. And there are a lot of things that trigger, probably childlessness, and then we start doing the cold treatment, so many. So in fact, we need a lot of support system. And when Dr. answered the question about the anger issue, I was going to ask whether we can even treat anger management because it's a friend who visited a prison who tell you a lot of the people there when they as a result of anger. And it's something that I think it's the monster we have to do, and it's gone beyond probably apology counseling, but it needs treatment. Because if he can pray, he can speak in tongues, but he's not be able to tame the demon. Probably it's out of his control. And anger is a dangerous thing. Right in the book of Genesis, God warned Cain that if you don't control your anger, the enemy is right at your doorstep. And when people get angry, they cease to be who they were, and it becomes so. If it's gone to a point where fasting and prayer doesn't help, I think we need help It gets to a point where you have to admit you need help and seek the proper help. Because as a Christian, patience and love go together. And I'm not sure anger is part of the qualities of love. So what we would say is that I don't know what advice can help, but I would say such a person needs help and should throw everything aside and seek for counsel. And like Dr. recommend. So you can imagine if it's a demon, let me put that in quotes, it can show up in church. It can show up at the wrong places. And since, anger aside that you lose control and become vulnerable to anything that happens to you. It's something that we should not just wish it away, but seek proper treatment counseling.
And the end result is fatal when if not addressed properly.
Yes.
We're in this country when we recently heard about a pastor killing his wife somewhere in the US. It's also brought about a whole lot of issues that were not spoken about, and they were in the church. So just like Doc said, things are happening that we need to come out and then seek help. And another thing is that, Doc, we are not seeking therapy. As far as therapy and professional counseling is concerned, would rather bottle things up. Maybe you go to prayer meeting, and then you are still hurting. But then sometimes you need to leave the work for a professional counselor. And
I think sometimes that it doesn't help. Sometimes you'll be listening to preachers and they will say, this one, don't go and pay money to any therapist, any psychologist, or this, it's a demon. We demonize everything. Whatever we can't handle, it's a demon. But, God has given us wisdom. There are things that someone can show you. It's like, I always say that therapy is like this. I'm not there to solve your problem, but jigsaw puzzles, especially the ones that have the 1,000 pieces. The big ones, if you don't have the picture, you can figure it out. Try figuring out 1,000 piece or a 2,000 jigsaw puzzle without any picture. So you come to therapy with the pieces of your life mal-aligned or scattered sometimes. Sometimes you can't even find a piece. But as you talk, as you share, as the therapist ask questions and explore various issues, he or she is able to present the picture of where you want to go. And once you see that picture, you can negotiate and get there. The challenge, though, is that generally worldwide, women seek therapy more than men. It's because by nature, women talk through their problems.
And their pain.
Men would want to solve it, and if they're going to see a therapist, they want a fix. It's like, I've come to a professional, what do I do? Point 1, 2.2. But you start talking to them and you're asking them about their childhood, they're asking about this. It's like, what has this got to do with? Exactly. But for all you know, what you say, what happened to you during your childhood or what you saw is even part of what is happening. So there's a role for therapy. The fact that you're seeing a therapist doesn't mean that you are there, because for a lot of people, they associate seeing a professional mental health person or even counselor mean that you are off. But no, it's got nothing to do with that. It just means, just like you would go to the bank and seek the services of a banker, or you go and seek the services of a surveyor. Life coach or a counselor also helps you in your part. It's a needed service. And as a society, before we had the very good extended support system, but now it's changing. Even our friends, we are also busy sometimes to get someone to talk to your problems. You start talking to your friend, it's like, oh, my busy, why? It be a later. For all you know, it may be the lifeline, but then if you're seeking professional help, you know that you'll be giving time, you'll be giving space in a non-judgmental environment, and you would help. So for a lot of marriage issues, help. Oftentimes, in my experience, the women come and sometimes it's difficult to ask the men to come, but then when you let them know that, oh, it's not about you, but the therapist thinks that maybe what I'm dealing with, I've discovered things about myself that will help you understand me better, because they don't want to feel like you've gone to report me and as if the therapist is the policeman or something. So there's a lot of misinformation there, but you've had people at the end, when they are bold enough to go, they realize, oh, I am so glad I came. I wish I had known and come earlier. So it's needed.
It's needed.
Maybe I say something about the whole fasting. Okay, please.
No, I'm
Lady
just
Jo.
adding to what
Please
you
add
said.
to it.
So, just the singles before they get married, there's the need to always have somebody around who your spouse, in a way, fears or really respects. So sometimes when you're asking them to see a therapist, yes, it's kind of, as she rightly says, sounds like what the master saying. And I said, there's something wrong with me. And most men, as you said, won't even show up, even with normal counseling that we have around in church. So maybe if it's a family member or a friend who is also not just anybody, but somebody who, when your name is mentioned, that I'll let this man know what you are doing, I'll let this woman know, the person wants to set up, there's the need to have that kind of person around your marriage, so that not just to even report, but let the person have that kind of mind that if I don't set up, the person I so respect or the person who I know respects me might know of certain things I don't want to go out. That kind of structure is very, very needed. The support system is very crucial.
It's very crucial there. So, Elder, in this instant, do you think that as far as postmarital counseling is concerned, it has to be instituted? Postmarital counseling.
Well, I'm
because
very,
people go into marriages and they are shocked.
Well, I'm very hesitant telling people do this, don't do that, because people can do the postmarital support sessions and may not be interested. So you need to create a psychological ownership in the people where they appreciate the essence of what you are prescribing, as in postmarital activities. Because beyond the sessions they're going to have, they're going to live their life. How are they going to manage when they have left the session? That's a real deal. So we need to now empower spouses to be able to connect, create the warmth, go through their turmoil and their challenges. Because see, largely in our part of the world, many of us are prepared to avoid conflict. But we need to learn to manage conflict. You can't run away from it. So there's a need for spouses to understand the importance of enriching their lives, first and foremost, and then reinforcing the union. Because if you don't enrich it, it's like an accountant. He has to go back to school to upgrade. Doc is here. She went to school the other time. She was sharing with us. You know, so you've got to actually add qualitatively to yourself. And marriage is a learning experience. You're going to learn something new all the time. I mean, we've done 20 years and I still don't know everything about my wife. And she doesn't know everything because me, myself, I don't know everything about myself. And that's the truth. So every now and then I see a new layer of Amos, you know, and this year we started, myself and my Farm Life team, we started what we call a Better Me project. We are supporting people, but we still realize that we also needed to improve. But there are individuals who think, I don't need improvement, I'm okay, I'm a finished product. Now let me touch quickly on the issue of fasting. I've heard a lot of people say, when I fasted and I prayed, what really was the object of the fasting and prayer? Was it to twist the arms of God? Or it was meant to discipline you to hear what God is saying? You know, I have seen the benefit of stillness, silence, solitude, space, and soul searching. As a Pentecostal believer, I didn't put too much weight on that. I saw it more relating to those in the monastery. But I tell you, after an 8-week course that I did on this subject, it transformed my perspective about spirituality. Because for many of us, spirituality is chaotic. It has to be some creation, something. There ought to be some, shaking of chairs. Movements.
Fire.
And I want to say and suggest to each one of us, it is time for us to pause.
Reflect.
And do a soul search. Like David says, search me and know my ways. That if there be any wicked ways in me, sometimes the thing is there.
Yeah.
We don't notice it. And it begins to hurt us and hurt those close by. That's what I'll add to the fasting and prayer bit. Because sometimes people get it awfully wrong.
It's true. It's true. It's true. And talking about the surprises, when I got married, I didn't know that my husband loved tennis and football. I got married before myself. I realized that there are some things I love. So it takes a while. You yourself, sometimes you surprise yourself. Like, is this me? So sometimes the differences and the surprises come here and there. So Elder and Doc, you know the husband's secret letter to wives and then the wives' secret letter to their husbands. You had some few aspects in there that you wanted to talk about.
Yes.
So Doc, I want you to.
Okay,
I want you to.
you know the song. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about.
Is Pastor here?
Let's talk about you.
Hey.
Let's talk about sex.
Okay.
There was this letter that talked about.
I'm shy. Where is Pastor? He's not here.
You're looking for Pastor.
Yeah.
But there was one of the ladies. It talked about basically how. A lot of guys, for them, I'm ready for sex. That's it. Let's get it on. But for the woman, it wasn't. So there's this love-making cycle that I love so much because it brings the concept of a wheel. People here are used to drive. Even if you don't drive, you've seen a wheel before. Can you imagine what happens when you have a wheel that is flat? You are not able to roll it. So that's the whole idea of the love-making cycle, that it's a holistic concept. You don't focus on one and think that you've got it. So it brings in the atmosphere. When it talks about love, atmosphere, it talks about arousal, it talks about apex, and then it talks about after. So what is the atmosphere? A lot depends on the relationship. Sex often is a barometer of the relationship. When we joke that if you put a bean in the bottle, in a jar, every time you make love, the first year you get married, and you take a bean out in the subsequent years, there will still be some beans related because of children and other things. But a lot depends on the relationship. When a woman feels loved, when a woman feels secured, when a man feels respected, and let's not get it twisted. Men can be turned off sex by their wives to the way they relate to them, just like women wouldn't want a man who's just insulted them or disrespected them to touch. So it goes both ways. So the relationship matters. The little things that this person talked about. Sometimes we help the children with a diaper or with homework or in the kitchen. You're making me feel that I matter. It's about me. One woman, I don't know whether it's the same person, who said, I want you to tell me I'm beautiful, not hot. Because hot says, ooh, you're looking. It's like, it's a sexualized thing. It's like, I want to sleep with you. I am turned on by your looks. When you say someone is hot, basically, that is what you mean. But this wife was actually telling the husband, I want to be seen more beyond. I don't want to be seen just as a sexual object. Yes, adore my sexuality, but I want you to see me as a holistic person. Tell me I'm beautiful and not just hot. So that atmosphere, that relationship really has a lot to do with it. Then arousal. There are different things that arouse people. For a lot of guys, it's like light. You switch it on, it comes on. For a lot of women, it's like an iron or electric stove. It takes a while to heat up, but it also takes a while to go down, whereas a man will get it on and it's finished. A woman who is really loved and handled well can have multiple orgasms. That is how we've been built, by the Creator. So arousal is important. Get to know your wife, get to know your husband. If you know that your wife doesn't like sweaty bodies. Don't come back from work, you are tired, you want shower, but you want something to eat. I mean, so she'll be turned off.
Yeah.
Do you understand? But if you know that she likes it and she likes this cologne, so you've gone to take your bath, the moment she sees that you are using her favorite cologne, it's an indicator to her, or the way you feel during the course of the day. You send her some text, it's like, I'm missing you, imagining some things, Charlie. You know your language. That is, it takes a while for women to be aroused. It doesn't mean that women cannot be aroused on the spur of the moment too. That can also happen, but it's a whole thing that it goes both ways. And then you have the apex. So that is when the actual intimacy occurs. Sex is not just let me use a medical thing. Penovaginal intromission. That's not it. I mean,
in other words,
it's a whole process. It takes, some women want to be kissed, some men want to be kissed, they want to be tied, they know. So that is important. This is specific to the person you are with.
Yeah.
Forget the relationships you've had in the past. They are not the person you are married to. But if your husband tells you, oh, I like it when you touch me, I like it when you wear this, I like it when you do this, then you do that, because really it's about them. If we focus on pleasing each other, we won't have a problem. But a lot of women feel that their men are just using them to satisfy them because I'll give you an example. There's one medication we used to treat depression. For several of the medications we used to treat depression, one of the side effects is delayed ejaculation. So a man came to see me. He came with his wife, was depressed, and I gave the medication, and I was talking about the side effects. That one of the side effects is delayed ejaculation. The woman said, "Doctor, me pay."
I saw the lights,
Which
so.
obviously meant that the man was having premature ejaculation as far as the woman is concerned. And this medication, we also use it to treat premature ejaculation.
Yeah.
So what is the side effect somewhere becomes a treatment elsewhere. So focus on your wife. If you know that you come early, don't just do a hit and run. Make sure that you have done.
There's hit and run in that department too.
Look, I hear a lot in sessions about this because people are hurting, especially women. One woman says she's been married for over 20 years. She doesn't know the animal called orgasm. That for me was a very sad moment, and this was not someone who was even in her menopause for you to say maybe it's hormonal. But then eventually you get the man to know that, look, the woman loves you, want it, but it's not just about, it's both. Sex is not for the man, sex is for both of us. So it is important, and once the apex has been reached, you've really fulfilled each other, then is the afterglow, the pillow talk, my favorite part. That's when you are open. It's like you've been in the presence of God, you've worshipped, and once you've hit the peak, you don't have to speak to God. He sees your heart because you are in the zone. And remember, we don't have time. I could have given you an analogy between sex and the tabernacle, but we don't have time. That's for another session. But that is how it matters. Read the Song of Solomon. God is not ashamed of sex.
No.
Read the Song of Solomon in a modern version. You will blush.
Yeah.
This is in the center of the Bible. You will blush. So it is important. But there you can see that the man is focused on the woman is focused on the man. So please, Christian couples, I mean, I probably one of the most surprising things was a session we had years ago in Christ Temple, and the room, we were in the this was not Bidding Power, we were in Christ Temple. The auditorium was, one woman asked a question, and I remember, so why can men be so selfish? If you have come, let me come also. She said it in a room full of married couples. This is a woman in distress.
Yeah.
So let's understand, sex is important. But I also want to let the ladies know that just like we want to be romance, for men, sex is it. I mean, I always give this example that you are tired. The man comes home, he wants food, he wants sex. Tell him, Jack, you can have one or the other. Today, I can't give you both. You can eat gari soakings or find something, but I'm going to get ready. And when you come, I'll give you the time of your life. I'm yet to see a man who will choose the food over that time.
Hallelujah.
And that is why it is also important. And we need to put thought into it. That's why I bring in the issue. Just like we know that worship should be part of our, because we are who. I'm not talking about praise. I'm talking about worship because of who God is. That is how we need to see sex in our relationship. It takes a lot of time and energy, and we have to. I even constantly, especially when you hit menopause and the hormones, and I'm like, things that you've never experienced before are happening. It can, but women, we have to be. There's no retirement. I've treated couples in their 80s who came to me because they were fighting about sex, and the child was embarrassed. And the lady said, "Doctor, I thought when you get to 60, there's no sex." I said, "There's no retirement age for sex." Yes, it is important. Look, I've had men in their 80s who I used to get drugs for because they didn't have money to get hypertension. This was in the late 90s when Viagra came first, and it was so expensive. One man in his 80s, he was 85, asked me whether there wasn't any drug that will let him have sex because his wife was younger. And I said, "Oh, he told me I should write the prescription." I said, "Doctor, as an oil the woo, the last department the bottle." That is it. A man in his 85 who was complaining of money not for his regular medications was prepared to spend everything he had on Viagra so he could enjoy sex again. So let's be mindful. It is part of marriage. If you don't want to have sex, don't get married.
Don't get married. Yes. So sex is normal. Those of you who are uncomfortable watching, those of you who are uncomfortable in your homes, we see you all. Elder.
Well, I think speaking about the issue of sex, from my interactions with spouses, I've seen that it's either it is overrated or underrated. Both are not helpful. There must be a certain median where you create balance. Because for a lot of young men and women who are getting ready to marry, some of them have some utopic views about sex. To the extent that I'll always get it if I want. That's not the reality in marriage. And so they need to be helped to manage that kind of expectation. Now, the second thing I also want to talk about is the whole issue of empathy. I see that as a necessary tool to help spouses enjoy this beautiful gift of sex and intimacy. Putting yourself in the shoes of your spouse for a minute. Feel the weight of the burden they carry and the stress they go through. Plus your delight that you want to execute.
I'm doing delight.
So I expect spouses to be sacrificial in their posture. Otherwise, it will bring chaos. During the COVID, I heard all kinds of stories, reading from the UK in particular, where they experienced 120% increase in domestic violence.
Same in Ghana, it went up.
Yeah, here too. You know, and it's pathetic. Some of them say, well, he wants too much. And they say, I'm not getting. So that kind of tussle, I want, I'm not getting, and then, you know, it becomes like a chore. The moment sex between spouses become a chore, you've lost it. It ought not be. It is sweet surrender. The spouses must come to a posture of sweetly surrendering to each other in consideration of the greater good of the parties.
Amen.
So I have some recommendations. First, usually is about frequency. How frequent can we have it? Now, the spouses need to talk about frequency. I know people who are stressful as bankers, and yet they have sex every day. And I know people who are not that stressful, and they do it as and when. Okay, so if you're going to go as and when, you should discuss it. Then the second thing has to do with the intensity. Too many people are reading so many stuff, and therefore they want this vibrating, vigorous, with, you know, breathtaking palpitation of your heart. push-ash generation.
Push-ash.
Push-ash. So it's and sometimes when I listen to some of my male friends talk on radio, make up pawano.
Hey.
You see, the whole mindset of our sex, it takes away the beauty.
Yeah.
It's punishment for the
The
woman.
third thing is got to do with the style. I was in a workshop where a 60-year-old woman who is enjoying the life of her time at age 60, being menopausal, was enjoying sex.
Yeah.
And that threw the whole idea that if you hit menopause, you can enjoy sex. And you know, we ask her more, we all call her mommy. Her favorite here there, I like Deuteronomy.
Hey, that's
See,
a
it's a
style.
mystery. Her style is called Deuteronomy.
Hey.
Doc, I'm not sure you've seen it in the literature. I had read so many books and stuff, and I had never heard Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
So we asked her to explain. Said, "The kuntunu hono."
My
So
goodness.
it's a doggy, but this one
Ofreno-
you are
ofreno-
already
ofreno
Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
The fourth issue I want to raise is the setting. You see, many of us are not mindful of settings, ambience, and its implications on our response to sex. There are spouses who think that every sex must be midnight. I told you there's that kind of cocooning of yourself. Some want it hot afternoon jump.
Yeah.
Hot and spicy. It must be delivered. So you've got to have a conversation with your spouse on the rhythm and the routines. So the setting must be varied, must be dynamic, and create that response. Okay? And finally, I'll add the glory of God.
My God.
You see, people are introducing things in the bedroom unspoken, some of which have become detrimental to their spouse.
Yeah.
I had a woman share a story on Lexis Bill's program, where when they got married, the guy wants anal sex. And that's what the guy was asking for. And the lady reluctantly gave in, and now involuntary stools were coming. She just could not control her stools anymore. Damaged. Because that is not an entry, it's an exit. Doc is here. You know, so there's a need for spouses to ask themselves, what are we doing? And is what we are doing glorifying God and edifying the two of us? Because for me, anything short of these two is counterproductive. It must first glorify God and it must edify the two of you. Your joy must be my priority. My joy should be your priority. And we can make it work.
Elder, I'm so glad you said that. Unfortunately, it is not uncommon. And even among Christian couples, you get the issue of what is right and wrong. So one thing I say is that if you do anything that makes your wife feel like she has sinned, or makes your husband feel that he has sinned, guilt is not good. Don't do it. There are so many ways. Just imagine that the Lord is, I mean, he's there anyway. So what he talked about glorifying God, it's important. There are a lot of kinky things. People read things, people watch all sorts of things, and they bring it there. But I like that the edifying part, the glorifying God. Make sure that your sexual intimacy, we should draw you closer. Remember, the marriage relationship is a reflection of the relationship between Christ and the church. So if you're doing anything that is taking you away from Christ, making you feel dirty, making you feel you've sinned, making you feel it's not right, you can't pray, you have to fast, you have to go through all sorts of things because of what your wife wanted you to do or your husband wanted to do. That is not right. So at the end of it, whatever we do must glorify God.
It must glorify God. So this means that as far as being in a relationship or courtship is concerned, prospective married people who intend getting married should start asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Because it all starts from the foundation. Because if you go on a date and you don't ask about sex, you don't ask about finance, you don't ask about religion, children, and then you talk about anything else but some of these things, it means the structure of the relationship itself, it's a bit wavy or shaky. So it means that if you're in a relationship, you need to start asking the right questions. And it's one of the things that we realized during our first session, what I wish I knew before I got married. People had concerns, but they realized that if they had perhaps discussed or communicated to their respective partners, perhaps that challenge they are facing now in their marriages, they could have cut down on so many of them. So if you are in a relationship, it's not about the pizza and the pictures and those things. I mean, those are complementary. Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, Laurie, the point is this. A lot of young men and women are in a vulgar haste when it comes to relationships. Many of them don't find themselves in the space of friendship. You see, when you are in the space of friendship, you can have very important conversations which are non-threatening. But the moment you start a relationship,
official,
now everything almost becomes like an interrogation. So what you do is you want to give the right answers and don't create a scarecrow. You want the person, so you won't give answers that will scare them away. But if it were to be friendship where there have not been any propositions about marriage, you are open. You want to speak, you gauge it, and then you go back home, you go and reflect on the issues, and if you need to checkmate with somebody for clarity or for clearer understanding to be gained, it helps you. But many of us, then we start getting physical. And for the ladies, I mean, Doc needs to explain to you the volatile role of oxytocin and how ladies get bonded with males.
Yeah.
They actually are worried about them.
Yeah.
You see all the danger signals, but you have gotten physical with them. Yeah. You've gotten kissing with them. And so now detaching is almost like pulling a strand out of your nostrils.
Yeah.
And especially for the ladies,
Yeah.
you know. And Doc, if you can please
so oxytocin maybe for the women is easier when you talk about breastfeeding. It's one of the things, the hormones that is released. Know how you bond with your baby when you are breastfeeding or when you are nursing. It's because oxytocin plays a role. That same hormone is released during sex or intimacy. It bonds. Paul actually puts it this way, that I wouldn't use the temple of Christ and join it to a prostitute. When you read it on the surface, it's like, but sex is not bonded. But there is a connection.
Yeah.
There is a connection, and it has a biological basis. That is the role oxytocin plays. So there are some guys, maybe you might not really want to marry them, but they are great. They are sexy. They are all the things you want. You find yourself in bed with them. You want to pull away. They come, and then you keep going back, even though you don't want to. So we need to be careful who we engage with. We need to be mindful of who we are. Let's not cheapen ourselves. We are valuable. I mean, do you know who you are? Really? Do you know your worth? Do you know how priceless you are? And you are letting anybody take you for granted, walk over you, or treat you anyhow, or give you something small and you chase. No. So it is important. We need to connect. Kissing is powerful. The same thing. That hormone is released. So you and that's why sometimes affairs is not just limited to sex, but you do that and you know you are born. You thinking you're dressing and you are not thinking about the person you want to, but will this person like it? Will this person? Because there's a bond.
Yeah.
It is how God made us. He wants us to bond. But the people he wants us to bond with are our children and our spouses. That is why you have it released during breastfeeding and during intimacy, so that we stay connected to the right people. But when we take it all over there, then you may find yourself in a situation, and it takes the grace of God and a lot of work and counseling or therapy time to get out of it. But don't give up. If you found yourself in that situation, God is still there. He's still God.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to be able to recover. Years ago, there's a book that I read by Walter Trubbish. I've forgotten that, but it's a story about two guys, two people, I think, somewhere in East Africa, and the man had kept himself really was a virgin and wanted to marry a virgin, but the woman he married, the woman had had a life before he came to know Christ. So Walter Trubbish was recounting the story where he was talking to his wife, and it's like, oh, this guy really wanted to marry a virgin, but he couldn't. And his wife said, she's a new creature in Christ.
I married
She's a virgin. I married you.
Yeah.
That's it. So we need to know, and even if you are in Christ and you still find yourself doing that, there's still hope. You read Jeremiah and God calls Israel virgin Israel, and yet this is when he was talking about the unfaithfulness and how they had gone to Israel, and yet it refers, I think it's 33 or 34, it refers to Israel as virgin Israel. So the redemptive power of Christ is not just for when we become but even when we turn aside, even when we go off, the only thing we need to do is to recognize that we have gone off, be willing to change, get the needed spiritual help, the psychosocial help, bind ourselves with the people who will make us accountable and get on the right path. Because it's so easy to think you've gone so far, what's the point in turning back? But that is not our portion.
It's not our portion indeed. It's not our portion indeed. So one other question that, or recommendation I'm thinking perhaps we should look at is the issue of sex education for our children, for our youth. Because for some of us, the sex education we got was and that's it. But you know, this generation, their children are different. They come with their Einstein ideology and mindset, and they know everything. The kind of words and things they know at a very tender age, sometimes it's really alarming for parents of this generation. So how do you handle this issue of sex education for children or teenagers growing up in this generation? And I'm coming to you, Uncle Kofi, because you handle the teenagers in Zoe Temple.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, part of our programming, I mean, we actually try to bring in experienced people, especially to talk about sexuality. Because sometimes when you say sex, then their minds go in a different direction. But sexuality, what does it mean to be male? What does it mean to be female? And why will God make you a male? And why God makes you a female? What happens to the body when you are growing? These are so basic that then the person believes in his sexuality, the fact that she's a girl or the fact that she's a boy, and then bring out their potential. But sometimes we, by our tradition, as we know, I mean, then when you start teaching about sex, then the implication is that you are given a loaded gun and a free license. But like you are saying, I mean, if you don't teach, they will find out. And probably they will find out from the wrong places. And then they will not tell you they know, but they will do it, I mean, practices in the wrong way. And so, yes, you can give a gun to a child, but teach the child the responsibilities and how it is used. And I think they use it rightly. And so it come compelling. And that makes parenting another chapter of life, because it gets to a point they could know more than you as a parent, and sometimes they know you don't know, but you are just guessing. But it's very important now, and probably we need to even teach parents how to teach it, because some parents never got to know, and therefore they don't even know how to teach it, and because they don't know how to teach it, they are not teaching, and because they are not teaching, now you don't even need to stretch to get it. They can, you can lock a child in a room, but I mean, you'll be visiting all friends, I mean, everything. So yes, it's become imperative, and probably the church should also start teaching, because the church is also silent on
some of these things. And you even have parents and guardians who are even shy to mention certain organs, the sexual organs of the body and all that. So they will say, you're thin. you're this, you're this. But then again, you know, it's the upbringing, it's the setting that we find ourselves in as a culture, as a society. So sometimes you can't blame them too much. But then again,
you know, even at premarital counseling, someone will tell you that even when you ask them to mention the sex organ in their local language, some people, like 1 hour, they won't open their mouth and say it because they've never probably known. So it is a big picture, even at that level. They are ready to get married, but they will mention it in the local language. They won't.
Well, I mean, before Doc speaks, let me say this. You see, a lot of people are making a monster of sex in the minds of our young people. And the narrative creates heightened interest in the matter. Unfortunately, with the heightened interest on the side of the young people, their parents have been told, you don't know how to teach it. For me, that disempowerment of parents sends me sick. Because the parents have a way of communicating. They have a style. It may not be exactly what the behavior change people are recommending. So for instance, you go and learn behavior change modification, communication style through an NGO. Then the NGO thinks they are a surrogate parent. So they have the right now to teach our children things about sex and sexuality. And we leave it to them because we believe that they have our good at heart. When many of them are actually scavenging. So we've got to now get to a place where we empower parents. And I believe that the church is in a great place through the women and men's ministries to empower parents with the tools that these people have at their disposal. Whatever the academic people have, we can get them and make it available to the parents to start the conversation. I mean, I shared recently a book by Nancy Percy titled Love Thy Body. Currently, it's one of the well-written books on how to start conversation on sexuality and sex with your children. Some people create the impression we're going to go and teach them the mechanisms of having sex, which they construe to be sex education. So there's a need for us to painstakingly ask ourselves the question, what do our children know? What don't they know? Because sometimes we create the impression that because they have access to information, it translates necessarily to understanding. That's not true. That's not true. A child may have lots and lots of wild questions. All a parent needs to do is to be patient and be confident in yourself as a parent. Because the moment the child senses that you are not confident, you are finished. They won't come to you with questions. So parents, if you don't have an answer to a question, tell your children, I'm going to read about it. I'm going to consult somebody. And that shows them honesty. You know, so tell them, tomorrow we'll do it. Like the Jehovah's Witnesses, when they come and you raise a question, they are not in a hurry to answer. They tell you, can we discuss this the next time I come? And they go and do their research. So when they come and they give you an answer, you are jaw-dropping. Parents, be empowered. Be confident. Don't lose your capacity as the most influential person in the life of your children.
Right.
Get all the expert advice, get all the support, and read and read and read.
Right, right.
So let's add a little to that. In as much as you want to teach the children, so I have upcoming one teen and then a teen. So don't have to make it like a near science. Like the normal playful mood that you are with the children. You beat this one, you are tapping this one. Hey, what is that? Hey, what am I seeing, Isha? What is coming? Oh, mom, yeah. Then you can pull her aside and this, that, and that. So be careful, do this, don't exactly. And then those who have the girls coming, the parents, men, husbands or fathers, you should try and also warm them in. Sometimes it's just one word another boy tells her, oh, you are beautiful, your whatever is coming out, and then she's all over the place. So we should be very involved in their lives.
Right.
Don't wait till they are getting there before you start wanting to be their friend.
Right.
It should start from way infancy when you are trying to get to know them better. You play with them, talk about all the things that needs to be talked about, and then you get them involved in their day-to-day activities. I'm sure they will even open up to things that you think they don't know, and you can have them well taught through those fears as well.
Right. Thank you very much. Time is fast spent, so we will now be wrapping up. But thank you very much, Elder Amos Kevinana, Dr. Ama Edwin. Thank you so much, Mr. Kofi Kobold, Uncle Kofi Kobold. Thank you very much, and our own Lady Joe. Thank you very much for your comments and insights. So, like we heard, a lot has been said, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to communication, reading, relearning, unlearning some things, and also not forgetting the place of God and prayer in our marriage and our relationships. My name is Lauren Chankroma. Thank you for joining us for the final session of our September to Remember 2020. We'll now go over to the anchoring team.
Is it going to edify? Myself? Is it going to edify children? Is it going to edify the community? And I believe that once we begin to use this as a deciding factor for any action we take, we'll begin to build more beautiful relationships, more wonderful families, and we will learn and grow and win in relationships.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much. Yes, that has been a great family enrichment month. And yes, every September we do have this. We have a good family enrichment month, and it's been great. Thank you so much for joining us. To our in-house audience, we want to say thank you. To our virtual audience, too, we want to say thank you for keeping in touch every Wednesday with us and sending in your comments. I want to read just one or two comments from these people, and from Nana Jones, a very sound advice from the elders. Thank you so much. This has been great. Communication is key. Say it, but in a nice way. Very insightful. It has been a great journey. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And yes, if you are with us, kindly follow us. If you need any snippets, anything you missed, maybe week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, you've not missed anything. Kindly follow us on all our social media platforms. On Facebook, ICGC Zoe Temple. On Instagram, ICGC Zoe Temple. And on Twitter, it's ICGC Zoe Temple C5. And we love you all. And once again, on behalf of Reverend and Mrs. Kodra Mwasari and the leadership of ICGC Zoe Temple, it has been an amazing September to remember. Yeah. We hope to see you next year. Kindly be, God willing, yes, God willing, we hope to see you next year. It has been great for me. I am Yvonne, your amazing uncle. And I did that with ASJAR and
Jar,
David, who have been so amazing and so great. They've been helpful to our cameramen, to everybody out there who have been helpful to the production team. We want to say thank you very much.
Thank you
and
so
also
much.
do join us on Sunday, every Sunday for our services. We have our first service from 7:30 to 8:45, and we have our second service from 9:30 to 10:45 also, and our third and fourth service are a joint service, so you can join us every time, which also happens at 5. Thank you so much. It has been great. Shout out to all our production.
One person.
Oh, please do that.
The head of the production team, Mr. Rudolph Amwasai.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you so much for your support. It's been a thrilling experience, and let us do this again, not next year, but every Sunday and every Wednesday when we come together on our virtual platforms, and we would want to continue to build this long-lasting relationship.
Well, it's our final day today, and yes, we only ensure that everyone do join us every Sunday for our church service. You will love ICGC. Zoe Temple is here for you. Thank you. My name is Yvonne, and God bless you. Do enjoy your evening and do enjoy your week. Thank you for joining us. Happy New Month too. Tomorrow, yes. Since today is the end of September. Thank you so much. God bless you. So much. God to our virtual audience, we love you and we will miss you. See you next year.
Bye.